Hey 7th graders, welcome back to video lesson number 2 for the week of May 11th, 2020. So we just got done learning about tsunamis and a terrible tsunami in 2004 that impacted many countries along the Indian Ocean. And we talked about the threat that global warming could possibly have on the Maldives moving forward if ocean levels were to rise. For this video, we're going to take a look at two religions, actually the final two of the 5 major world religions we have not talked about this year. And both of these started in the country of India. So the first one I want to talk to you about is Hinduism. So far this year we've learned about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. We took a look at kind of the basic beliefs of each religion and some of the holidays and celebrations and that kind of stuff. So we're going to do the same thing with Hinduism. So Hinduism, first of all, is much older than the other religions. It's the oldest of the 5 major world religions. And it is also different in the fact that there are thousands of gods in the religion of Hinduism. So there are some gods that are kind of more mainstream and more important and focused on more. Brahman, Shiva, and Vishnu, and so on. But there are thousands of gods within the religion of Hinduism. Now, so we would call that as a polytheistic religion. So the main ideas of Hinduism center around the idea of karma and reincarnation. So reincarnation is the belief that when you die, your soul is reborn into a new body. This is much different than the other 3 religions that we've already talked about. So in Christianity and Islam and Judaism, your life is like a timeline. You are born, you live your life, and then you die, and that's it for your time here on earth. They may believe in things in the afterlife, but that's it for your time here on earth. Hinduism is more like a cycle. So you're born into a body, you live your life, and then you're going to die at some point, and then your body is done. A lot of times it'll be cremated. But they believe that your soul is reborn into a new body, and then you'll live another life, and then you'll die, and then you'll be reborn again. And it's this continued rebirth and cycle of life that goes over and over again until you finally live like this perfect life. Now, what are you reborn as? That's where the idea of karma comes in. Karma talks about how you live your life now will impact what you are born as in your next life. So if you're a good citizen now and you do all your religious duties and you're honest and you work hard in school and you work hard in your career and you treat people with respect, you do all these high virtuous activities in your life and you're a good person, then they believe that you will be reborn into something better. Maybe someone who's wealthy, maybe someone who has a high profile job, someone who's wealthy, but somehow you'll be rewarded in your next life. On the other hand, if you have bad karma and you treat people rude and you're dishonest and you're a thief, or maybe you always disrupt your 7th grade social studies class, do those type of things, then you could be reborn as something worse in your next life, maybe someone who's poor or sick. Now, in India, for a very long time, they had a strict social class system called the caste system. And there were 4 main castes, and there were different castes within each caste as well. But your caste determined a lot of things about your life. It determined how much schooling you would get, what type of job you could have, who you could marry, and so on. And there was no way to change your social class or your caste while you were alive. The only way to do it was to be what they believe is to be reborn into a higher or lower caste, depending on your karma. So let's say you were in the category of the farmers and you lived a very virtuous life. You might be reborn as maybe a priest, which would be the highest caste. Or maybe you just moved up a caste to the kings and the wealthy landowners and things like that. But that was the only way to change your caste, was to be reborn into a new one. Now, underneath all the castes were kind of the outcasts of society. And those, they called at that time the untouchables. These were the street sweepers. These were the people that cleaned toilets, the people that would be spit on in public and disrespected and ignored and kind of treated as less than humans. They had a group that they weren't even good enough to be in a caste according to their kind of thought process. And those were called the outcasts, the untouchables. Now, we have talked about this before, the Ganges River. The Ganges River, that was a river we talked about with a lot of trash in it that flows through India. The Ganges River is a sacred river to Hindus. So it flows through India and then out into the Bay of Bengal. And a lot of people live along this river, and the most famous place along the river is a city called Varanasi, and that's where the steps are kind of built into the river. You saw some images of that last week, and I'll show you some images again this week. The Ganges is thought by Hindus to have a lot of sacred powers. So they think it's like a cleansing river. It can cleanse your soul. Some rituals that go along there, they will oftentimes bring newborn babies down there, and they will shave their heads because they think that hair is kind of like leftover from their previous life. They put it into a ball of dough and with some money, and they put it into the river as kind of like a tribute to one of the gods. A lot of times they'll take people to the banks of the river on the steps, and they'll cremate people, and they'll put their ashes or their remains into the river. They think it's kind of like a pathway to their next life. Sometimes they even put the dead bodies right into the river as well. And so that's the significance of the Ganges River. That's their holy river in the religion of Hinduism. Another thing that is very holy in the religion of Hinduism are cows. So it's very common, and even in busy cities, to see cows just randomly walking through the streets, laying down in medians. If you've ever had the chance of riding in like a taxi, taxi drivers can be very aggressive. They almost hit people all the time. But if there's a cow on the street, they'll be very cautious to kind of go around them. So because cows are sacred, Hindus do not eat any type of beef, typically, which is a part of their religious diet. Now, companies like McDonald's, which is a hamburger restaurant, would like to open up restaurants in India because there's so many people there that if you can be successful there, you're going to be making a lot of money. So McDonald's has had to change their menu to meet the needs of the local people there. So if we go to McDonald's here in town, we can get like a quarter pounder or a Big Mac with an all beef patty, where in India they're going to change their menu because of that. So their famous sandwiches there are the Maharaja Mac, which it's like a Big Mac, but instead of a beef patty, it has a veggie patty. They also have a chicken version. They also have something called the Makalu Tiki, which kind of really put India and McDonald's on the map with the veggie patty, and it's a little bit smaller than the Maharaja Mac. But they have like things like chicken nuggets. They have actually a pizza pocket thing called a Veg Pizza McPuff. Anyway, so I'm going to put with the resources this week a link to the menu of an Indian McDonald's, and you can go check it out to see how the menu is a little bit different than here in the United States. And that's because of those religious diet restrictions that they have with regards to eating beef. Another thing that happens in India a lot of times are arranged marriages. So for a long time it was required that you marry someone from the same caste, and it's still part of the culture there, although not everyone necessarily follows that rule. It's not as strict as it once was, but a lot of times parents pick who you're going to marry. So they will actually advertise this in classifieds. We're looking for someone from this caste to marry our daughter. And you may not even really know them much before you marry. So here in the United States, you meet someone and you go on some dates and you fall in love and there's a proposal and then you have a marriage. Well, in Indian culture, it's very common to have your parents pick who you're going to marry. So that's a big cultural difference between, us here in the United States and a lot of people who live in India. The religion of Hinduism has had some conflict with another religion, and that is the religion of Islam. So India at one point was India, the modern day country of Pakistan, and the modern day country of Bangladesh. And when it was ruled by the British, the Muslims and the Hindus in that country didn't get along very well. And so when they got their independence, they broke apart, and Pakistan and Bangladesh were kind of set aside. They're actually East and West Pakistan for a while, but they were set aside for the Muslim population to kind of move to, and India was for the Hindu population. There are many other groups who live in India as well, not just Hindus. You have Sikhs and other religions as well. But that's kind of how it was divided to kind of lessen the conflict between those groups. India and Pakistan still have conflict at this time. Both have nuclear weapons, and at times have threatened to even use them against each other over conflicts over different regions like Kashmir in India. So that's something you could look into more detail if you'd like. The Vedas are a set of books that are like the holy texts for the religion of Hinduism. They actually were passed down orally for a long time and then eventually written down. So they're very long. They have hymns and stories and rituals and things like that in there with the religion of Hinduism. The other religion I want to talk to you guys about is Buddhism. So Buddhism started in India, kind of developed out of Hinduism. It is no longer very popular in India, but it is popular in countries in East and Southeast Asia. And it was started by a guy by the name of Siddhartha Gautama. Siddhartha Gautama is more commonly known as Buddha, which means the enlightened one. Now, Buddhism isn't a religion that really focuses on praying to gods or worshiping gods. It's more about self-enlightenment. So Buddha was like kind of a wealthy prince in that caste system we talked about. He saw suffering in the streets and wanted to know why people suffered. So he gave up his life, left his family, gave up his wealth, and went out to go find that kind of the search of why people suffer. And one day he was sitting under a tree and became enlightened and figured out why people suffer. And he said it's because of our desire for other things. So Buddhism has a kind of a path system to try and eliminate suffering and reach a perfect mental state known as nirvana. It's an 8-fold pathway to follow. So it's about acknowledging the truth and get rid of your desires and then start controlling your mind through meditation. You're not even supposed to even like think bad thoughts later on in the path and things like that. So that's the idea behind Buddhism. It's more about self-enlightenment than the worshiping of gods. And like I said, it's not as popular in India today, although that's where it started a long time ago. A couple other cultural aspects of India I kind of wanted to talk to you about. So sports. Soccer is an important sport and a popular sport in India. But one sport they are very passionate about, which came from the United Kingdom, which ruled India at one point, is cricket. So cricket, if I had to relate it to a sport here in the United States that you're familiar with, it's probably closest to baseball. It has a flat bat and the pitch kind of bounces in. And cricket matches can actually last for days. It's a really popular sport in India. A lot of people play it, and like when they have their big matches against their neighbor Pakistan, they're televised and everyone gets really into it. So it's kind of like their biggest sport over in India. We have an instrument that's associated with India. At the beginning of the video, when you see the Taj Mahal, you'll kind of hear it being played a little bit. I'll play some more for you now too. That's a sitar. A sitar is a stringed instrument that kind of looks like this, and it's popular in Indian culture and Indian music. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is a sari, which is a type of traditional Indian dress, which looks like this. And you see a lot of people in India who dress in this kind of traditional way. Usually they have bright, beautiful colors that they'll wear with it. And of course, a lot of people in India dress in like westernized clothing as well. But that's kind of like some of their traditional clothing from that country. So there's some cultural aspects about them. So now you've kind of been exposed to all 5 major world religions. There are many others in the world as well. Those are the 5 with the most followers. So we have Judaism, Christianity, Islam from the Middle East, and then Hinduism and Buddhism from this particular unit. I want to remind you of office hours, Mondays at 2 o'clock, Fridays at 10 o'clock. Make sure you join us. We'd love to see you there. Check out the Google Classroom for the assignment that goes along with this lesson. And let me know if you have any questions. Take care, guys.